What's up, everybody? This is the Book of X, and we are back for another episode of the Game Pass Spotlight. And with all of the talk lately of Battlefield 6 and people really loving what the game has to offer, I'm going to take you back to one of my my favorite game in the Battlefield franchise, and definitely one of the greatest games of my personal sort of enjoyment and one of my favorite multiplayer experiences, and that is Battlefield 1. So for those who are not aware, Battlefield 1 is the 2016 iteration of the first-person shooter developed by DICE and shifts the franchise focus to World War I. Now, I was pretty skeptical of this one before it came out, but my god, when it actually launched, this was one of the most gritty, immersive experiences in a first-person shooter I've ever experienced. From the gameplay to the incredible, and I mean incredible, musical score that comes with this, and just the sheer enjoyment and fun I had with friends on the multiplayer side of this is in conjunction with a great campaign, just sells for an absolutely fantastic package. So what is included in this Battlefield game? So first of all, the single player campaign of this one takes a very different approach. It's a vignette approach of war stories. So rather than a single narrative, the campaign is split into 6 anthology style missions, each highlighting different soldiers and theatres of war. So those 6 stories are Storm and Steel, Through Mud and Blood, Friends in High Places, Avanti Savoia, The Runner, and Nothing Is Written. So to go into each of those, first up, you have Storm and Steel, which is the prologue mission that gives a brutal sort of reflection of trench warfare and gives you this impression straight off the bat of you're not necessarily meant to survive, and creates this picture to you of how bloody that conflict was. So beyond the prologue, then you have Through Mud and Blood, which is definitely one of the highlights, top 2 of the mission sets for me. So Through Mud and Blood has you taking control of a British tank driver, navigating through sort of the chaos of warfare through a region called Cambrai. Now, as you can suspect, you're doing a lot of tank warfare on this, but there is some sort of first-person combat gameplay in here. But absolutely fantastic experience right off the bat. Gives even though this is World War I, gives you feelings of the movie Fury, if you've seen it, the Brad Pitt film. We then have Friends in High Places, which is also for me top 2, and you play as a rogue pilot who impersonates an officer during aerial missions. Now, the aerial combat in this game was fantastic, and the visuals and the scenery of the air combat was just fantastic, and it gives you a bit of insight into how difficult it was for pilots during the World War I, whereby you have a better chance of not returning than actually returning once you became a pilot. We then have Avanti Savoia, which has you taking control of an Italian soldier fighting through the Alps to search for his brother. And then The Runner is an Anzac Messenger, so that's the Australia and New Zealand unit during World War I, who's a messenger racing through Gallipoli's deadly beachheads. And then finally you have Nothing Is Written, which is between rebel aides Lawrence of Arabia in his sabotaging of the Ottoman armoured train, so it gives you that full Lawrence of Arabia vibes. So each of those experiences covers themes of sort of camaraderie, sacrifice, and the human cost of that war. Turning our attention then towards the multiplayer side of this, so it's 64 player battles across many of the areas you experience during the campaign, but with of course additional missions if you own the various DLCs. And it has the traditional class-based module of Assault, Medic, Support and Scout, and then you've got the vehicle-based roles like Pilot and Tank. Traditional game modes in this were Conquest, Rush, Operations and Team Deathmatch, and then you had like an unusual mode called War Pigeon mode. And then in each of these games you can come across things called behemoths. So these would be massive vehicles like armoured trains or zeppelins that would sort of take part in the combat and change things up. Now, this was a very authentic World War I sort of arsenal experience then, with bolt action rifles, flamethrowers, sabers and poison gas, and you get to do things like ride horses into combat. Lancing in this is fantastic. Pilot biplanes and command tanks in destructible environments. And I played some matches of this one with friends, and like we would be locked down in a Russian cathedral for sort of like a 60-70 minute match, and it was just brutal onslaught, but you just held the ground, and it created just such fantastic memories. Or another match whereby I've, after an hour, finished the match 54-0, so 54 kills, 0 deaths by being the driver of a tank, and just managed to keep that tank going for the duration of the match whilst defending a hilltop. So yes, it's, you know, as I stated, fantastic atmosphere, fantastic sound design, and, you know, a very fresh setting. We don't get to see World War I captured in many ways when it comes to gaming. So if you haven't played this already, do jump into this on Game Pass, particularly with Battlefield 6 coming up in October. It's a great opportunity to give this game sort of one sort of last push before everybody shifts towards Battlefield 6. One of the best multiplayer experiences of the last decade, personally, for me. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you played Battlefield 1, and do you agree it's sort of a fantastic game? Or do you disagree, that's fine too. But if you haven't already, do like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I'll catch you all on the other side.